Hi everyone, welcome to Home Built Workshop. Today I'm going to put together 3 cigar box guitars. I've got these 3 great cigar boxes that I got from a local place in town. If you're in the market for cigar boxes to do some builds or some sort of projects, I recommend checking local places that sell cigars. Most of the time they'll have some in the back room that maybe they're saving for something, and they most likely will sell them to you for a very minimal cost, if that. Since I recently did a cigar box guitar build video, I'm not going to go as in-depth for this one. I'm going to just show you kind of an overview of the entire process putting these 3 all together. So let's get started. I'll start by using a template that I already have prepared, and I'll trace out my pattern on a piece of maple. Then I'll cut out those blanks on the bandsaw. Then I'll reattach my template with some double-sided tape, and I'll use a flush trim bit and my router to route it down to the exact size. After removing my template, I'll clamp the neck to a flat surface and sand it flat using a sanding beam. Now I'll begin to prepare the fretboards. I'll start by cutting the stock down on the table saw and running it through my planer to get it to the right thickness. I'm making several different blanks to use for different projects. Now I'll start working on the bodies. Using a coping saw, I'll cut out a notch that the neck will fit into. The biggest thing to keep in mind during this part is to make careful measurements and make sure you don't cut the slot too big. You want the neck to fit nice and tight. Now I'll just cut down some support blocks out of maple. These will get glued inside the cigar box. This is going to give me a place to screw the neck into. Now it's just a matter of gluing those blocks in place. I'm working on a thick, flat piece of metal. That way when I clamp everything down, it's going to stay nice and flat. Now I'm going to use my router planer jig to cut notches in all 3 of the necks. This is going to allow the lid to close. Now on the drill press, I'm going to pre-drill the mounting holes through the body and into the back of the neck. And now using a Forstner bit, I'll create a recess that'll hold the screw ferrule. Now using a fret ruler, I'm going to mark out all the locations of the frets on my fretboard. I've put some painter's tape on the top of the fretboard so that my pencil lines show up a lot better. Now using a machinist square, I'll transfer those lines all the way across the fretboard. Now I've got my scroll saw set up with the blade in backwards, and I'm just going to make some light cuts right on that pencil line. This is going to mark my location where I need to cut later. Now I'm just going to use a flush trim saw that has the correct kerf, and I'm going to deepen those slots to the proper depth. I'll use this little setup gauge to measure the depth of the slot, and I'll adjust as necessary. It took quite a while to cut all of these fret slots, but it worked out okay. And using a chisel, I'll remove the waste material for the nut slot. I'll use this little specialized file to make sure the slot for the nut is nice and flat. Now it's time to glue on the fretboards. Nothing fancy here, just apply some glue and a whole bunch of clamps. As soon as the glue's dry, I'll trim off the excess on my bandsaw and trim it flush with a flush trim bit on the router. Now I need to thin the headstock. I'll mark it out with a marking gauge and make the largest cuts on the bandsaw. Finishing it up with a handsaw. And now we sand. And sand some more. Now using a paper template, I'll mark the locations for the tuner holes. And I'll drill them out with a Forstner bit on the drill press. I need to use 2 different sizes of drill bits because this hole is stepped. They make a specialized drill bit for this process, but it's really expensive. Now I'll drill the holes for the string ferrules, as well as all the holes for the side dot markers. I'm trying to get all the drill press work done at the same time. Now I'm going to glue in the side dot markers, just using some wood glue, tapping them into place, and trimming them off. Once the glue sets up, I'll use a sharp chisel and trim them flush. And now it's back to the drill press to drill the fret position markers. And I'll glue these into place. This neck gets some homemade ebony markers. The walnut fretboard gets some plastic side dot material markers. And the Bacote fretboard gets some mother of pearl inlays. I have to use epoxy for these. My sanding beam levels them out really quick. Now it's time to start on the frets. First I'll cut them all to the rough length. Then I'll use a little hobby knife to apply some glue to the slots for the frets. If you get some squeeze out, do not wipe it off. Wait until the glue sets up and then you can chip it off. If you wipe it off now, you risk getting some streaks on the fretboard that is all but impossible to sand out now that the frets are in. I'll just press all the frets in place using my fret press. This is nothing fancy, it's just a cheap arbor press that has an attachment to press in the frets. For me, I find it's best if I work in 4 or 5 frets at a time, applying the glue and then pressing them in and then going back and doing another 4 or 5. I'll clean up the edges of those frets using my homemade fret beveling files. And now the fun part begins, carving the necks. I'm starting off with a spoke shave to remove a bulk of the material. Spoke shave works really good. I'm really happy I picked up this little tool, and I definitely recommend trying it out if you're looking at carving some guitar necks. After the spoke shave, I'll go to this Japanese saw rasp. This thing's really cool too and works really well. And finally, I'll bring it down to its final shape using some files and a bunch of sanding. With the sanding complete, I'll apply 3 coats of spray lacquer. Then I'll apply the water slide decals and another 6 coats of lacquer, sanding in between each coat. Then I'll just let it cure. While the finish on the necks is curing, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up all the drilling that I have left to do on the body. I spent quite a bit of time in Adobe Illustrator making some templates that I'm going to use for the sound hole. I spent a little extra time during this process because I want everything to line up really well. Once I drill these holes, if one is off, I can't really cover it up. I'm applying some low-tack masking tape to the top of the cigar boxes. This is so I can make pencil marks on the box, and also the low tack is not going to risk damaging the box by leaving residue or peeling a label or anything like that. It's kind of scary. Once I put a dent in the top, I'm kind of committed to that spot. Now I'll just drill out the holes for the grommets. These will make the sound holes. I'll just mix up a little bit of 5-minute epoxy. Apply a little bit to the grommets and drop them into place. You want to be careful not to get too much squeeze out here because the epoxy is kind of hard to clean off the tops. Now I'll drill the holes for the volume control as well as the output jack. After the necks have had about a week to cure, I'm going to grab some wet dry sandpaper and sand everything flat. I'm using a little block of rubber as a sanding block. And I'll use some polishing compound on a buffing pad from my random orbit sander and buff the necks out to a nice gloss. The buffing pads are made by SureBuff. They work great for buffing with a random orbit sander. I'll put a link to them below in the description if you're interested in trying some out. And now begins the fretwork. I'll start by putting some marker on the top of each fret and sanding them flat with my sanding beam. Once the marker is all sanded off, I know all the frets are at the same height. I can double check that with a fret rocker tool. Now I need to crown them. I'll apply some more marker to each fret. And then using a file, I'll file away until the fret's nice and round and there's no flat spots. I want to leave just a sliver of marker down the center. Then I'll polish the frets out using some 400, 1000, and 2000 grit sandpaper, followed up by a polish with some steel wool. Since I didn't apply any lacquer to the walnut fretboard, now I'm going to give it a coat of lemon oil to seal it up. With the fretwork complete, now all I have to do is install all the hardware. I'll start by pressing in all the string ferrules, installing the tuners, I'll drill a small recess in the neck to house the pickup. And I'll install the pickup using a little bit of hot glue. Now I can start the wiring process. It's pretty simple, just a volume control and the output jack. I'll protect the connections on the pickup using some heat shrink tubing. All three of these are wired the same way, with just the volume control.
That wraps up the wiring on the third one. Now all I need to do are drive the screws in the back to hold the neck in place. All that's left to do now is to string it up. My strings of choice, Ernie Ball strings. Not sponsored by Ernie Ball. They're just the ones I like. But, Ernie Ball, hey, if you're listening, I like your strings.
After I get some strings on,
Then I just need to file some slots in the nut as well as the bridge.
And of course, as I get them done, you gotta try them out.
2 of these are right-handed, and since I'm left-handed, it's really hard for me to play a whole lot on the righties. Anytime you're setting up a guitar, there's always a whole lot of tuning involved.
This one's really, really quiet. I don't know why. I don't know what the difference is. Why this one sounds really good. It's nice and loud. This one is super quiet. It's almost like playing a solid body unplugged. I think this would be a good candidate for an actual guitar pickup in there. Might be a project down the road.
Well, here they are, all set up and ready to go. Except I forgot to order volume knobs for 2 of them. I can add that quickly later. This one has a maple neck, Bacote fretboard with gold mother-of-pearl inlays. It's got gold hardware and is a 4-string right-handed guitar. This one is also right-handed, but it's a 3-string. It's got a maple neck, walnut fretboard, and chrome hardware. And this one is mine. It's a lefty. I guess I should have wiped the dust off it first. But it has a maple neck, a flamed maple fretboard, ebony inlays, and is a 4-string with chrome hardware.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed this project. It took me a really long time. I'm super happy with the way these things turned out. I do need to go order the volume knobs for these other 2. I'm gonna do that here in just a minute. But if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to comment and subscribe to my channel as well if you enjoyed it. Also, finally, I have stickers available. Homebuilt Workshop stickers, got the black one, got the white one, and I got this little clear one. If you're interested in a sticker, head on over to my website, homebuiltworkshop.com, click on store at the top. I have these available in there. Also, I'm gonna do a sticker swap. If you want to send me your stickers, there's an address down below in the description. Send me your stickers, I'll send you out a set of these as well. We'll swap it up. I also have some other things in the works that will be available soon, also on the website, but for right now, if you want stickers, head on over there and get you a set. There is free shipping for the United States and a small shipping fee for international, so it is available wherever you live. It doesn't matter. It's not just limited to the US. So thanks a lot for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time. If you're trying to find cigar boxes, check your... What's all this noise? What is all this noise? Yeah.
Dad, what are you doing?
Working on guitar stuff. We're working on guitar stuff.
Oh no! Look what I broke again.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
I can fix it.
It's not broken. Well, sort of it's broken. That's why it keeps falling off. Alright. Excuse me, kiddo. Just a little bit. There you go. Ah. 5-minute epoxy? I got like 2 minutes. Aww. Man. Well, that's discouraging. That's all the epoxy I had. Dang it, look at that. I actually never seen epoxy set like that. Ah. From buffing a neck. Oh man, get ready. Mark. Your neck, buddy. We're gonna buff it. Oh, I never pre-drilled holes in this neck. Whoops! Let me go back and fix that really quick.